So this book I read is on notes on the state of Virginia by Thomas Jefferson. The first version was published in 1781 and updated in 1782 and 1783 by Thomas Jefferson. But this one that I read right here was edited in 2010. You can kind of see the changes of it and everything. The notes in the titles were created from a series of 23 questions. And so Thomas Jefferson had questions asked for him, and then he just answered them. And he gave long details about it, great details about the state of Virginia, what it was like during that time, what kept logs of stuff. It was pretty cool. I read this entire book cover to cover, every word on every page. So I think it was pretty cool that the book was based on questions that was answered by someone that lived in that time. So like one question was about, like, the first few chapters were addressed about the boundaries, rivers, seaports, mountains, and saccades, and it was nice because you can kind of get a picture of it in your mind to see what the state of Virginia was like. I've been to Virginia. My mom is from there, so I kind of know what it looks like, but to know what it looked like in the 1700s is kind of cool. So he kind of goes on and talks about the crops and the products that they had, plants and animals, kept a log of like birds and like what he kept and everything. He kept the chapters pretty long, so it was kind of hard to like stay focused, but I would just jot some notes down and kind of regroup with it. 7 through 8 talked about the state's people from Virginia and like the climate change. So it did focus on like how many people were in the state at that time, even like slaves and stuff like that he kept. I like that he made like calendars of like the winds and the rains and the heats of like what was going on to the states. Like he kept like not like what we have today, but like he kept like January, February, March, April, May. He kept a note of kind of that, and then like wrote down like the winds and the rains and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. Like I said, he kept track on the slaves in his notes, even the Indians and stuff like that. He talks about that more in like question 11. 9 and 10 talks about the troops and their pay. So he kind of kept an update on that. And like I said, he kept tabs on like the Indians and everything like that, kept logs, kind of like charts is what we would call it today. 12, he kind of talks more about the country, the state along of each village, so like the counties and stuff like that, where everything is. He labeled every county and stuff like that. Question 13 through 15, he talks more on the constitutions, the laws of the state. He kept logs of the rules, the crime during that time. So so it was like somebody stealing horses or something like that, and he kept a log of like what they did. 16, he tells us about rebels. 17 through 18, he talks about their religion at the time, which was a little bit different than what we have here. 19 through 23 are the last, and he gives insight into their trade, their money. He kept logs on those. He devoted his life to keep the records on this so people can read them. I would recommend this book to anyone that wants to know anything about Virginia before the 1800s came around. It's definitely a different type of book to read, but I'd highly recommend it if you want to know more about stuff in that time frame. When I was reading the book, the theme of documentation kept in mind, how important documenting everything is, and even if history doesn't change itself, so it's good to document it now because it will be different, but so I thought it'd be kind of cool for kids to pick a state that they wanted to do and make it like a big project. And it was something that they could either, they would write their own questions about the state. So when they look at the state, like what are the questions they have. Give a timeline of the state, like from when it became the state to what it is now, compare and contrast, see what it is. I'd like to do it like either on a PowerPoint or one of those poster boards or something. I'm still kind of debating it for my lesson plan, but I think like they should find something that's important to them to study, because they get more involved and more interested into it. Like for example, I picked this book because my mom's from Virginia, so I like to know a lot of stuff about Virginia. I still have family that live up there, so I just like to know things about Virginia. So I kind of put in my mind that well, what if kids have people that live in Montana? Well, they could talk about Montana if they've never been, or they've been a few times. So you kind of see that you find their common interest in what they like for the history, and then they dive deeper into the state and when it became a state, and basically what it is now. So they would compare and contrast.